On this week's edition of the Coaches Corner Podcast, we're going to talk about Kevin Durant's free agency decision to leave the Oklahoma City Thunder for the Golden State Warriors, a team that knocked the Thunder out of the Western Conference Finals after a 3-1 lead. They blew it in 7 games. We're going to talk about why Kevin Durant left, and we're going to analyze sports loyalty and the fan logic going on around the world of sports, and why is it so controversial amongst fans. Also, UFC 200, it goes on this weekend. They got some great fights. Obviously, Jon Bones Jones versus Daniel Cormier, the second fight for the title belt. A lot of bad blood between those guys. We're going to analyze the UFC 200 card. We're going to go around the league in the NBA, the NFL. Dwayne Wade in talks with the Denver Nuggets to potentially join Denver through free agency. Denver reportedly offer a 2-year, $50 million contract. We're going to talk about the meeting that the Denver Nuggets and Dwayne Wade had on July 6th. Also, what's going on with the contract negotiation between Von Miller, John Elway, and the Denver Broncos? We're going to analyze that. News around the NFL. And ADFL Commissioner Damon Ware joins the Coaches Corner podcast to talk about the ADFL at its mid-season point, 2 weeks away from the start of the playoffs. He's going to talk about what the ADFL is planning on for next year, what he's seen so far this year as a commissioner and an RMAC official for the ADFL, and how the ADFL has evolved over the years. It's going to be great to have him here on the show to drop knowledge about the ADFL, the state of football in Colorado, potential all-star inclinations between both the CFC and the ADFL, the best players out of Colorado representing Colorado, and what championship quantities are in store for the ADFL moving forward. We're going to talk about that and much more here today on the Coaches Corner Podcast. This is the Coaches Corner Podcast, brought to you by CodyWork18.com. We are back here on the Coaches Corner Podcast. This week, the world of sports has been turned upside down, semi-formally. The internet was broken over the weekend, and guess what? Russell Wilson is now a married man. Wow, crazy week in sports indeed. You know, the offseason for the NFL is one of the worst times for a sports analyst or a football enthusiast, because realistically, nothing exciting goes on in the offseason outside of free agency, potential trades, the draft. Other than that, any other news is really considered bad. Most times it has to do with suspensions, discipline, or social issues amongst the NFL or any sports for that matter in their respective off seasons. But you know what? This past weekend we saw a crazy free agency swindle occur when Kevin Durant announced that he was signing with, drumroll, the Golden State Warriors. Really? You know, the internet was shocked. I checked my phone about 9:30 Mountain Time this weekend. I think it was on Saturday. It was on Monday. It was on the 4th of July. Jeez, man, I've lost time. That's what holidays do to you. 4th of July, I checked my phone, 9 o'clock in the morning, and I saw that Kevin Durant announced that he was going to be signing with the Golden State Warriors. He penned a letter inside the Players Tribune. That's something that we've seen quite often now in the last couple of years with the Players Tribune, is that usually they're the first ones to break a story because they approach the superstar that's potentially leaving. Last year was LeBron James, and now it's Kevin Durant announcing that he has signed, or he plans to sign with the Golden State Warriors, a team that knocked him and the Oklahoma City Thunder out in 7 games after OKC had a 3-1 lead, and they blew the series in 7 games against Steph Curry and the Warriors. You know, the Thunder were a game, they're maybe 30 minutes away from controlling their destiny to making it back to the NBA Finals. Once again, they couldn't do it. They choked it out, and they ended up losing to the Golden State Warriors, who went on to also lose a 3-1 lead in the NBA Finals against LeBron James and the Cleveland Cavaliers. So, you know, the internet has circulated with memes and outrage. Stephen A. Smith almost lit his hair on fire, or whatever hair he has left, because of this news. And you know what? I saw a lot of reaction, a lot of reaction that you normally see when you break up with somebody, or you go through a breakup in general, or something like that, where you're no longer talking to a person. And I can tell you what, one thing I've noticed as a sports fan and as an analyst and, a fan myself, I've experienced it with superstars in Denver. But Kevin Durant leaving Oklahoma City has sparked worldwide outrage. And a lot of people are saying his legacy as a player is forever ruined. When I look at it, I want to tell everybody, like Aaron Rodgers always says, to relax. You know why? Because the NBA is a business. And I'll explain why I think that people need to settle down on this matter. First and foremost, Kevin Durant was a free agent. Okay, he was a free agent. He's been with the Oklahoma City Thunder, formerly the Seattle Supersonics, for 9 years. Okay, and in that, the young years that they had in Seattle, they were starting to develop that identity. They were starting to become competitive. When they moved to Oklahoma City and they became the Thunder, they had Russell Westbrook, they had James Harden, they had Serge Ibaka and Kevin Durant, a nucleus of guys they could have built that franchise with to contend for championships. They were an up-and-coming team. They were developing. Durant started getting his rhythm. Russell Westbrook started to thrive. He moved to shooting guard when naturally his position should have been he moved to point guard when his position was naturally a shooting guard. And they had him at point. They had James Harden at the 2. James Harden ended up leaving. He left. Okay, and so you had Russell Westbrook, Serge Ibaka, Kevin Durant, some original guys they could have built that team with, and they started becoming competitive. They got to the point where they made the playoffs. They started beating teams. They started playing tough with the Lakers when the Lakers had Pau Gasol, Andrew Bynum, Lamar Odom, Kobe, and Derek Fisher, and Shannon Brown, and Trevor Ariza on that Lakers team. They competed with those guys, but you know what? They made some noise in the playoffs. They made it to an NBA Finals after LeBron James announced that he was going to go to the Miami Heat with Chris Bosh and Dwayne Wade, and they made it to the finals. They played the Heat, and they lost 4-1 in that series. The Oklahoma City Thunder did. They made it to the finals, and they just couldn't do it. And as a player, when you give so much, you make it to that thing, and you come up very short. And pretty much what everybody's goal is to win a championship. Every player in the NBA, their main goal is to win a ring, to win a championship ring. Okay, so now free agency approaches. Obviously the Thunder in and out of years. Western Conference Finals, semifinals. They get bounced out in the playoffs. They lose the finals to the Miami Heat. They get to the Western Conference Finals once again this year. They blow a 3-1 lead to the Golden State Warriors, who went on to the championship, and they also blew a 3-1 lead. They lost that. So at one point, you got to look at Kevin Durant's perspective, okay? He's been with the team almost 10 years. Okay, when you look at that, what has he gotten from that? Obviously trips to the playoffs. They traded Serge Ibaka on draft night. I think that factored into a major decision on why Kevin Durant eventually left as well. I could see him staying there because they did get Victor Oladipo from Orlando Magic, and they got a pretty solid young nucleus. But right now it's looking like Russell Westbrook isn't even going to be signing his contract extension as well. The Oklahoma City Thunder might trade him somewhere. They might as well do it while they can get something out of it rather than nothing when Westbrook becomes a free agent next year. Let's get back to the topic, though, okay? More importantly, the most important thing to analyze here is Kevin Durant was with the team almost 9-10 years, okay? He made it to the finals, didn't win a championship. He's had an array of injuries, okay? Last year he had a foot injury that was pretty severe, pretty significant. They've had injuries all around. Westbrook last year had a torn meniscus. He's been injured as well. So Kevin Durant, he's looking at the what gives me the best chance to win a ring now. And I understand a lot of people's outrage comes from him deciding to sign with the team that beat him in the Western Conference Finals. However, and they're comparing it to LeBron James' decision that, LeBron went to Miami so that they could beat the big three in Boston with Paul Pierce, Rondo, KG, and Ray Allen, those guys. But it's different. Kevin Durant leaves as a free agent to the Golden State Warriors, a team that's been to the NBA Finals 2 years in a row, a team that's got a very well-coached team, and they don't have too many superstars. They got Draymond Green, who's developing into a superstar. They got Steph Curry, who's a superstar by default, and you got a great guy in Klay Thompson. You add Kevin Durant, a superstar, to that mix, you have a pretty deadly team. You have a really great chance of getting to the NBA Finals. People don't realize games still have to be played. You know what? On paper, this team looks unstoppable. However, they still got to play games. You never know what can happen. Okay, so what people need to realize is, you know what? Kevin Durant wants to win the championship. If your goal is to get to the NBA and not win an NBA championship, why are you playing? I know a lot of it isn't just because you have a love for the game. It's because you want to win a championship. You want to have that legacy. So you got guys like Reggie Miller. You got guys like Stephen A. Smith saying his legacy is forever tarnished and ruined just because he decided to go to a team that's pretty tough and that knocked him out of the playoffs? Are you kidding me? It's time that people in the sports world grow up. Okay, I understand this whole thing, but my biggest thing is you look at all the losses that the Thunder have had in the playoffs, the loss in the finals. They didn't think that they were getting anywhere. Kevin Durant had to make a decision based on what's best for him and his career. I don't think his legacy is going to be tarnished at all. It's his decision. It's a free agency for a reason. He's free to sign with whoever he wants. Now, people need to stop holding that over his head. Now, you get the reactionary guys that go outside of his house and put up a for sale sign, and they call him a coward, and you got the guys burning his jersey. However, but let's analyze this from the human being standpoint. If you got offered a job, or let's say you put yourself in Kevin Durant's shoes, you get offered an opportunity to go to a place where you could have a better career advancement, right? You get a pay raise or something like that, or you have a chance to win a championship ring like Kevin Durant now has. You're telling me you'd pass that up just because you want to stay loyal to an organization? Let's be real here for a second. Everyone always wants to talk about loyalty in sports, loyalty in the NFL amongst owners, loyalty in the NBA amongst owners and coaches. The NBA, the NFL, these major sports organizations have no sense of loyalty to them. It's a business. It is a business ran by money and by marketing, essentially. They market the best teams. Why do you think all the good teams get all the national television games every single year in the NBA on TNT, ESPN? It's always the best teams around the league. And a lot of times when you get the undermarket teams, the smaller market teams, it's because they're playing a bigger market team. It's all about revenue, okay? And people want to talk about you need to be loyal. OKC has done so much for you. Yeah, you know what? Oklahoma City Thunder, that was his home for a long time. He played there. He gave everything that he could. Don't fault the guy for trying to do something that he's trying to achieve. He's trying to achieve a goal and a dream. And because he has the opportunity to do so, people start to hate on him, call him a fake, call him phony, call him a mark-off just because he wants a chance to win. His legacy is not tarnished. I think Kevin Durant's doing a good thing for him. You know, obviously I'm not going to like it. I'm a Denver Nuggets fan. You know what? When I look at the Golden State Warriors, I don't see right now who can compete with them. I think the Spurs might be able to, but I don't see anybody in the near future competing with the Golden State Warriors. Right now, a lot of people are already writing them into the NBA Finals for a matchup against LeBron James and the Cleveland Cavaliers for next year. Okay, the games still have to be played. Understand that. You know what? These athletes, they don't owe you, the fan. They don't owe us, the analyst, anything. This is their career. They've worked their butts off to get to the position that they're at in order for us to say, you owe us something. That's ridiculous. Sports fans, lighten up. Get real. I've had this happen. I've seen it with Carmelo Anthony. Carmelo Anthony went to a better place for him where he thought it would be better for his career. Can I fault him for that? No. Was I upset? Yes. But guess what? I got over it. Instead of rooting for him to fail, you know what? Cheer him on and thank him for the years that he gave you. Because I'm guarantee you, without Kevin Durant and those years that you guys experienced, you guys don't make it to the NBA Finals to take on the Miami Heat. You don't make it there at all. Be thankful for what you have, what he has given you, and look forward to the future with you, the young nucleus that you guys currently have in the NBA with your guys. Man, that felt good. I wanted to rant. I needed to rant. Social media, I didn't want to type it all out on Facebook or Twitter, so I'm glad I got it out here live on the show. We're going to take a quick break. When we return, we're going to analyze the UFC 200 card, and it's sure to be one of the best on paper for the UFC. We're going to analyze that in a few moments when we return here on the podcast. The Coaches Corner Podcast is brought to you by CodyWork18.com, and the show is now on iHeartRadio. Download the iHeartRadio app and search for the Coaches Corner Podcast with Cody Rourke to listen to past, present, and future episodes of the show. Welcome back from commercial break. This is the Coaches Corner Podcast, and yes, as you heard, the Coaches Corner Podcast has been picked up by iHeartRadio. It is now available in the iHeartRadio app and iHeartRadio.com. Just download the app from the Android or Apple phone stores, and then you can listen to any past, present, and future show of the Coaches Corner podcast from your mobile phone, mobile device, wherever you're at, on the go. iHeartRadio has picked up the show. Very excited, very blessed to be in this position to have the show platformed to the millions of ears that listen to iHeartRadio every single day across the world. So very thankful here on behalf of the Coaches Corner podcast. And the Coaches Corner podcast is also brought to you by DDP Yoga. Last year I had an ACL operation, tore my ACL, had surgery, and struggled with my rehab, my flexibility, my mobility in my knee, and many other things, and my extension in my knee. And I was facing having another operation on my knee until I came across DDP Yoga. I was listening to Chris Jericho's podcast, Talk is Jericho, and he constantly praised and plugged and mentioned how DDP Yoga helped him overcome a herniated disc in his back, and how he was able to keep performing on stage for Fozzy and taking bumps in the ring in the WWE. And Chris Jericho provided insight on what DDP Yoga did for him. So, you know what? I had to take his word for it. I had to check it out myself, and I did, and I'm very glad I did. And Diamond Dallas Page has created a great program that helps people recover from injuries, that helps them stay fit, or helps them change their lives. And there are many, many great testimonial stories that you can see if you go to ddpyoga.com. Check out the stories and see if you could be the next success story. You know, you very well may be. If you're in a lot of pain, if you're struggling, if you want a weight change, if you want to change in your life, I tell you what, DDP Yoga is the best thing you can do. I can attest my life to it. I'm very thankful for DDP for his program, and also reaching out to me personally, thanking me and encouraging me as I go through the DDP Yoga journey. So, and he's made it easier for you. You can join DDP Yoga. You can have the free edition. You can have the membership edition. I pay for it every month, have every single workout. I could take it on the go. It's called DDP Yoga Now. It's an app that's in the Android and the iTunes stores. So if you don't want to order the DVD packages, if you don't have a DVD player, if you're always on the go, the DDP Yoga Now app has made it possible for you to take your DDP Yoga workouts wherever you go, on the road, on vacation. Even if you're on the beach, you can do it on the beach. He did a workout with DDP Yoga enthusiasts on the beach. What a great thing. It'll really help you. I can really attest my life to it. I avoided having another knee operation because of it, so thank you, DDP, for your program. DDP Yoga. Go to ddpyoga.com, download the app DDP Yoga now, and change your life today. Don't wait. It ain't your mama's yoga. And with that, we're going to talk about UFC 200. Happens this weekend, July 9th in Las Vegas. UFC 200 pretty much predicts on paper, it looks like it's going to be one of the best UFC cards in recent history. I think UFC 101 is probably one of the best bout cards in the UFC's history that I can remember, but UFC 200 might top it, and I'm going to tell you why. It's got a wide variety of different fights going on, and obviously Jon Bones Jones versus Daniel Cormier, the second fight that these two have had, a lot of bad blood between the two. Jon Bones Jones coming off some personal life issues that he had encountered that made him forfeit his belt and have to earn it back. So by default, Daniel Cormier fought and won it and became the interim champion, became the champion. Jon Bones Jones returned against St. Preux and beat him to become the interim champion. And now these two will face off here this weekend at UFC 200. A lot of bad blood there. Very looking forward to that as well. Brock Lesnar makes his return to the octagon after several years to take on 10-2 Mark Hunt, a guy, a lot of people are looking at this fight and they're thinking that Brock Lesnar, based on his superstar status in the WWE, is going to come in here and fight. But the real MMA enthusiasts, the guys who watch MMA, knows that Brock Lesnar's got his hands full. Mark Hunt's a very talented fighter. He's a big guy, very strong and deceptively quick, and many times has knocked his opponents out quicker than they've ever lasted in the ring with him. And a lot of times it's usually in the first round. Mark Hunt's a tremendous fighter. Brock Lesnar's got his hands full. And the question goes to show, does this mean that Brock Lesnar is going to be returning to the UFC full time? We will see. Brock Lesnar decided to hang up after losing to Cain Velasquez in an absolute bloody beatdown. Lesnar started off his UFC career very impressive, undefeated, and then dropped 2 fights in a row. So Lesnar looks to make his return to the octagon before returning back to the WWE here in the next month. Also, some other headlining fights on this card. Jose Aldo, the guy who runs his mouth longer than he lasts in the ring, takes on Frankie Edgar. Frankie Edgar, a very talented fighter, prestige fighter that's been in the UFC for quite some time. They're going to fight for the interim title, in which the winner will take on Conor McGregor after Conor McGregor takes on Nate Diaz in UFC 202 on August 20th. Another fight that we here at the Coaches Corner podcast are looking forward to, but we got a lot of questions for Jose Aldo. Aldo's still focused on Conor McGregor and can't seem to get over the fact that Conor McGregor toyed with him mentally and knocked him out physically in 13 seconds. And throughout the whole pre-hype going up to their fight, Aldo pulled out of their fight previously. And then when they finally fought in UFC 194, Conor McGregor knocked him out, the main event, 13 seconds in one of the most unbelievable performances I've ever seen in the UFC. A guy like Conor McGregor, a fellow Irish native like myself, what he did was unbelievable, was unprecedented. 13-second knockout, and then obviously went on to take on Nate Diaz at UFC 196 and fell short. The rematch happens at UFC 202 on August 20th between Conor McGregor, Nate Diaz. I think Jose Aldo's got his hands full against Frankie Edgar. Jose Aldo's in the headlines saying he's going to wait. If he has to catch Conor McGregor in the street, he will before he catches him in the ring. Just another sign of insecurity of him losing. Conor McGregor talked the talk, and he walked the walk, and Jose Aldo fell. So Aldo, focus on Frankie Edgar. He's a tough fighter. He's going to come for you, and it's not going to be an easy fight. So we'll see if Jose Aldo's mindset and mentality on Conor McGregor will overcome or be over-triumphed by his opponent, Frankie Edgar. Also, the women's championship will be on the line when Miesha Tate takes on and defends her title against Amanda Nunes. Miesha Tate's last win, she won the UFC title off of Holly Holm, who previously knocked out Ronda Rousey in the second round of their fight. And it doesn't look like Ronda Rousey's going to return anytime soon. However, Nunes takes on Miesha Tate in her first title defense since becoming champion. It's going to be a great fight. And then obviously we got Cain Velasquez taking on Travis Brown. Travis Brown being the boyfriend of Ronda Rousey. Cain Velasquez has proven to be a force of nature, an absolute nightmare in the octagon for guys. And what he did in Brock Lesnar, obviously making his return to the UFC. Lesnar's last fight was against Cain Velasquez, who bloodied him and battered him in the octagon and overwhelmed him. And we didn't see Brock Lesnar after that until now. But Cain Velasquez takes on Travis Brown in a great fight between two heavyweight opponents. So it's going to be very exciting to see how this fight turns out. I know I'm going to be watching. My seat is going to be glued into on the road as I go to Vegas this weekend. It's going to be fun. So UFC 200 kicks off July 9th, Saturday, on pay-per-view, MGM Arena in Las Vegas, Nevada. Main event, Jon Bones Jones, Daniel Cormier. The second fight between these guys, a lot of bad blood. A historic card is on the books for UFC 200. Be sure to tune in, and we're going to analyze the results on next week's edition of the Coaches Corner podcast. I'm going to have a guest, J.S. Chavez, who went to UFC 200, who's going there to watch it this weekend, to give his analysis on what he saw when he was in attendance for this event. So don't miss out next week. It's going to be a great show as well, as always, here on the Coaches Corner podcast. And then we're going to take a quick intermission break, and we'll be back just to talk about the latest news around the NFL. And then Damon Ware, commissioner of the ADFL, hops on the podcast to discuss the outlook of the ADFL at the mid-season point. He gives an analysis on the upcoming playoff picture and what he has in store in the ADFL in the near future when we return on the Coaches Corner podcast. You've been listening to the Coaches Corner podcast here on CodyRourke18.com. Be sure to follow the show on Twitter at CodyRourkeNFL and enjoy the rest of your show. Alrighty, some quick news around the world of sports before we get to ADFL Commissioner Damon Ware, who's going to join us here on the podcast to discuss the American Developmental Football League and his playoff outlook, and a mid-season review and what's in store for the ADFL. Here we go. John Elway has reached out to Von Miller, who is currently has to come to an agreement on an extension before he has to play on a franchise tag. The deadline is July 15th for both sides to come to an agreement on a deal that's really pretty much accepted. The only ideal is the holdup is on the framework. Von Miller wants 3 years of guaranteed money, which would put him about $60 million guaranteed in 3 years compared to the 2-year guaranteed money that Denver initially offered him for $40 million guaranteed in 2 years. He wants 3 years guaranteed money that will total up to $60 million. That will make him the highest paid player in the NFL from the defensive side of the ball, and really his production done is John Elway likes to pay for production and rather not potential. As we saw, Von Miller's had a very, very productive career with the Denver Broncos. 4.5 seasons. You consider 4.5 because he had a torn ACL, but he's got over 60 sacks in just 4.5 seasons, and that statistic right there says enough to me. Also, if you watch the playoffs, you watch the postseason, Von Miller had one of the best postseason performances by a defensive player. His performance against Tom Brady in the AFC Championship warranted him a spot to get the Denver Broncos into the Super Bowl. His performance in the Super Bowl against MVP Cam Newton and the NFC champion Carolina Panthers warrants him to get this extension. He deserves it. 2.5 sacks, 2 forced fumbles. He's responsible for 14 points for that defense for the Denver Broncos in the Super Bowl. Super Bowl MVP. He deserves it, and I believe a deal will get done. TMZ even reached out to Peyton Manning in the Los Angeles airport and asked him what he thought, and Peyton Manning said he thinks both teams will come to an agreement. Both teams want the agreement to happen. It's just all about the framework. So that's going to happen here soon. Also, something interesting for you guys that got nothing to watch, or you just miss Hard Knocks, or you just miss football in general, be sure to check out All or Nothing with the Arizona Cardinals on Amazon Prime. It's an Amazon Prime exclusive that takes you pretty much inside the hard knock approach to the NFL and its players with a different perspective. And it follows them throughout the entire season rather than just analyzing the preseason component of the Arizona Cardinals as well. Roman Harper, former safety of the Carolina Panthers, was talking to the media and said he cannot wait until he can trash talk the Carolina Panthers. Roman Harper, you need to relax, buddy. You're getting old. Your hair is really gray, and you really haven't performed that well with the Carolina Panthers, and your return to the secondary in New Orleans could only mean something maybe more like a liability. You know, you're getting older. You got punked by younger guys in the Super Bowl like Jordan Norwood, gave up that 2-point conversion from Peyton Manning to him, and it wasn't even close. You had no good coverage on him whatsoever. So before Roman Harper can talk, he better shaping up. He better get in shape, and he better be ready for what these younger guys are going to throw at him. And with that, at this moment, I'd like to make the phone call to Damon Ware, ADFL Commissioner. He's going to join us in just a few moments when we return. So I'm here joined on the Coaches Corner podcast right now by the Commissioner of the ADFL, American Developmental Football League, Damon Ware. He's joining me here today to talk about the ADFL at its mid-season point to give a review of what's going on. So Damon, we're pretty close to being towards the postseason here in the ADFL. Based on the first 6 to 7 games, how's it been in the ADFL? What have you noticed that's been really successful, or stuff that needs worked on? What's your outlook currently around the league?
You know, again, it's always a good thing when you've got multiple teams, you know, at the top of the leader board and that all can win a championship. And, you know, as a league commissioner, it's always good when there's at least 3-4 teams that can all compete. So our competition continues to grow. You know, there's 4 teams that have very good records that are all competitive. They're well coached and have good talent on their team. So it's always exciting to come down to the last couple weekends, and playoff positioning is still up in the air a little bit, and you know, all those things, and that you just don't know who the champion really is going to be. You know who your top teams are, but watching them play it out to the bitter end is always a fun thing.
Absolutely. One thing that I've noticed as a coach in this league, an unbiased perspective, is that the league this year, to me, it feels a lot more competitive than it has been over the last couple of years. I believe this is one of the most competitive seasons that we've experienced in the ADFL. As you mentioned, you got a lot of top teams. You got the undefeated Gladiators. You've got a very great Colorado Cougars team, and just recently coming off their first loss, Silverbacks team. There's a lot of talent that's diversified, and you got a Spades team that started off really slow at the beginning of the year, but now it seems like they're clicking on all cylinders. They've got it back up above 500. They're starting to find ways to win games that come together as of late. So it really is up in the air. You got a lot of well-coached teams. I can tell you this, that the Colorado Cougars have a tough squad on offense and defense, as do the Silverbacks. So it's going to be a competitive, very exciting thing. I think one thing that's really helped the competition thrive in the ADFL this year is that there are no divisions. It's just one single conference of teams, and really, like you said, these last couple of games in the season really determine playoff positioning. So what does the current playoff picture in the ADFL look like? How's the seed structure?
Well, 6 teams make the playoffs, so the number 1 and number 2 seeds will have to bye. From there, 3 will play 6 and 4 will play 5 for the right to go to number 1 and number 2. So whatever the higher seed is will go to the number 1 team, and the next highest seed will go, to the number 2 seed. So, playoff picture is cool. I mean, obviously the Gladiators, again, I've loved watching them, with their signs of the revenge tour and all that. And, obviously the Gladiators have been a 3-time defending champion in the league before being unseated by the Spades last year. So I love just seeing the competitive spirit that Grand Junction puts out every year. And again, it's great to have them, in the league and having them be as competitive as they are every year. The Cougars are always a tough team. The last couple of years they've been, in the championship game or close, and they've got the good coaching staff, good talent. They added some pieces this year, so in my estimation, again, they're probably that second best team in the league right now. But the Silverbacks too, with all the talent that they've got and what they've put together and changes of coaches and players, again, definitely what they're doing is obviously a pleasing thing to the league as well. So, just having fun. The Spades, obviously, like you said, they're starting to come along right now, which is important. You're defending champion. You always want to see them come back and play tough. And they're finally starting to come around with a lot of their changes and having a new quarterback and some new coaches this year. So, once again, it's those 4 teams are in. And then SaberCats, I thought they did a great job beating Punishers the past week. So again, putting themselves in a spot to pick the playoffs again for their first time in their franchise's history. So that's exciting to see. And then to come down to the last couple of teams, Metro State probably and the Punishers will play each other in the final game of the season, and that's probably going to come down to the last playoff spot. So we'll have 6 deserving teams, and again, back to the board again and see who that champion is, and they'll be well deserved again here this year.
Absolutely. I mean, it is shaping out to be a very great season. When I look at it on paper, I think the ADFL has had a tremendous year from all standpoints, and really I think the talk around Colorado is mainly amongst 2 different leagues, but I think both leagues, the CFC and the ADFL, have different goals. Ultimately, I think one's better off in the long run. One's going to be it's going to get you where you need to be from A to B right now with the CFC. A lot of times it's always a competition between players and teams talking about which team's the best. And is there a planned state championship game set up for the end of the year after the ADFL championship happens and a winner is crowned?
Yes, we've definitely got that in the works again. So again, that will be something. Obviously, with the Greyhawks winning it last year, again, obviously the game's going to be in Denver this year. It'll be a special event again like last year. I thought that was a very fun event. It was a large fan base, and it was just a really exciting game. And so whoever gets that opportunity to play again, if the Greyhawks continue to do what they've been doing the last couple of years, then it should be them against our champion. And again, I think our champion will be equally as talented last year was a little disappointing. Both teams didn't have all their players, and again, that was a little frustrating from a commissioner standpoint, is just not having all of the players on both the teams, and it but it was still a very, very good game. This year, hopefully, we can keep everything together, keep the dates right, have everything in order so everybody can be at full speed and at full strength for this game, and we can truly crown a champion. And I think the ADFL this year is in a great position to be able to, to compete in that game and possibly win that game. So I'm looking forward to it.
Absolutely. That's exciting. One thing the ADFL has done over the last few seasons is host the national championship from the FWFA, the Far West Football Alliance, in Denver at Shea Stadium. Is that still in the works as well, or are they going to a different venue this year?
Yes, we'll be doing that again. Shea Stadium is obviously putting in a new turf, so they should be done. Again, I'll get official word here soon as far as the location. If Shea will be done and completed and all that, we'll play on a brand new turf out at Shea Stadium. If not, we've got other couple locations that I've got, reserved right now for that. I know the champions from Washington will be coming down here again. They were just a joy to have last year. They were respectable. They were yes sir, no sir. It was just really pleasant to see a team come from so far away and just have the kind of passion and sportsmanship that they came down and presented. And so I invited their league to come back this year, and they're down to the team that came here last year and one other team, and we will look forward to seeing what happens from them, but the Washington League will be the one that plays the champion from the ADFL. So I'm really excited about that as well.
Oh, that's great. That's great news. That should sure turn out to be very exciting. Obviously, with some unfortunate events, the championship game was originally scheduled for the 6th of August, had to be pushed back to the 13th. How does that set back the league in any way in terms of timing with everything else going on?
At this level, you never want to have to continue further in the summer than you have to. We try to end so everybody's got a couple weeks to unwind, spend time with family. Obviously, we're a family-friendly league, and that's important to us as well. But, myself and the RMAC officials, we have our RMAC officiating camp on the 30th of July. So all of, and that's the playoffs. We only employ our best officials and college officials during the playoffs. And so then devaluing the competition by possibly putting in, high school refs or something, it's just going to be better for the league. It's better for the teams if we just wait one extra week while the officials go through what they have to go through and then play the games 1 week later.
Absolutely. One thing I think that makes the ADFL diverse from a lot of people is they don't really know that RMAC officials officiate the games, with the kind of competition. And as you mentioned when I had you earlier on the show, before in 2015, you mentioned that, for the business model, it's more than just a business. It's a family environment. You want to make the ADFL something that families can bring their kids to, their relatives to, friends, family to watch and put on, for the love of the game of football. One thing I've really noticed is that, I believe that the officiating overall this year has been very quality. A lot of times, at the semi-pro level, you hear guys always complaining about referees, but, they don't really realize that these are RMAC officials. These are guys who are working RMAC games come, college football season. So I think that the production's been good, the great feedback. Obviously, a couple new rule changes that guys didn't really know of this year. I remember a lot of confusion was if a guy jumped off sides and forced the offensive lineman to move, that is an encroachment, that is a defensive penalty, and whatnot. So a lot of guys were confused about that, but I think the officiating crews this year have done a tremendous job up there in Denver. Every time the Gladiators have came up there, it's just been nothing but helpful. It's been a first-class experience. So that's one thing I can attest that you guys at the ADFL on the board, you guys have put together. It's a great job.
And, that's important to us. I mean, you never want to play games and hear people complain about officiating or something like that. That takes away from the spirit that the coaches and the players are out there. They put all their time. They take time away from their friends and families and loved ones, and they put all that in. The last thing as a commissioner I want to hear is, we didn't feel we got a fair shake by an official or this, that, or the other. So we've really, really worked hard on building that relationship with the RMAC. Our director of officials, Bobby Albee is an RMAC official. We really put the best refs out there. So we're about 75, 80% straight RMAC officials, straight college officials that have to go through all of the classes and the clinics and everything that it takes to be an official at the college level. And then we're a training program for the guys that are in between the high school and college level. And, we don't keep guys, and again, we're grooming them for the next level for the RMAC. So it's a win-win for the RMAC. It's a win-win for us. The referees get plenty of work in the summer to get themselves prepared for their next seasons of college football. So it's a win-win, and I just hope that everybody in our league appreciates these guys, because they could be doing a lot of other things, but they come and make our league special, and that's really, really important to me, is that we keep, the sportsmanship in our game, and we appreciate the officials, and we treat them with respect, and that relationship is going to take us a long way in the future.
Absolutely, and like I say, you guys have done a great job this year. One thing when it comes to the terms of officiating and the board stuff within the ADFL, in the last couple of years, the ADFL has implemented, players have to follow these specific guidelines, or they risk fine or suspension regarding obviously conduct, personal conduct on the field. Obviously with language, fighting, things like that, stuff that won't be tolerated. How has it been this year, policing discipline in the league? How has that been really an issue at all this year for you guys?
Every year we've gotten better and better. We've made the rules more strict. We've put some serious fines in. So again, it hits, people in the places where it hurts the most. And that's, fining people is a tough thing at this level where guys aren't being paid to play. But, from the officiating standpoint, and we just met not too long ago, and from the officials, we really thought, this has been the best. So far, there's been very, very little unsportsmanlike behavior that's been out of hand. It's been very fun and exciting to officiate all the games that we've got. And so, our commitment to the code of conduct is just it only gets better. And I always said when I instituted this policy it was going to be a 2 to 3 year plan. So we're in year 2 of that plan, and so. We're getting better. We're getting rid of the guys. I've made some season-long suspensions again this year. That, again, early in the season, hey, you know what? If you don't want to comply with the rules and what we're putting together as a family-friendly product, then you can go play somewhere else. I mean, we don't need you. In the first couple of years of the league, again, we had to fight for players, obviously fighting with 2 leagues, but we are a destination of choice now, and so we do not have to put up with any kind of conduct that is not family-friendly. If you're out there doing things outside of regular football rules, I will find out. I watch all the films, and we'll find you and we'll get rid of you. And that's really our commitment to making this a better product and a family-friendly environment. And I think we've really done a great job of that this year, and I'm real proud of all the coaches and players and owners that have made that an important aspect of their team is to teach off the code of conduct and make this league a place that people are proud of.
Absolutely. One thing I've noticed this year compared to all the other years, this is my 5th year in the ADFL, is that, looking back at it, there were times when I was playing as a player where, there were bad blood between 2 teams, and it would stay bad blood, even after competition. And this year it feels like, the game of football is a very emotional sport. Yeah, tensions run high, and, you got rivalries, you got bad blood with guys, but at the end of the game, it's always about respect, one another, showing that to each team, each player, and even the fans in the stands who are watching, the younger role models. One thing for me as a high school coach is I always encourage my high school players to come out and watch football, to further their love for it, to learn, to watch their position. And so I think this year has really been a really good year in seeing, what you want reflected out of your athletes on the field to the people in the stands. So I think that's been a good thing. Everybody's come together after the games, and that's one thing I've noticed differently this year that I haven't seen in the last few years. So that's very exciting for me to see. So I wanted to ask you one more thing before I let you go, and I was going to let you say anything you'd wanted about the league, what you wanted to let out to players, coaches, owners, potential owners, and future teams in the future, though. But I wanted to talk about this. Colorado, a lot of players here, they're trying to figure out, they want a legitimate all-star team with the best players in Colorado, plain and simple. And then I remember there was talks of potentially at the end of the year something being held where it is the best players nominated from these teams. They're selected as part are from their coaching staff, from other coaches, the best guys, and they go play on to represent Colorado in an all-star game. What can you tell me about that, or if there's anything?
You know, we always want to do the best things for the state of Colorado, and so again, we've been in great talks. We've had plenty of talks in regards to putting together a team that was of the best players for Colorado and playing an all-star game. You know, the toughest thing about this level of football is getting practice time where we can get everybody from all the different locations to one practice place where we can learn to get better. The other thing is financial responsibilities. There's, you know, obviously going in and out of state or other teams coming in and out of state for these games. There's a financial impact that we've got to also take into consideration as well. So, you know, with that being said, again, we're in the works. We've got some ideas of how to make it for both leagues to be able to put together a great football team and make it happen. But there's always those challenges, again, that we've got to, you know, always be cognizant of, which is, again, there's a lot that it takes to put on a football game. And, you know, again, we want players to be patient, but also realize that, again, we're not in the NFL. And so, you know, some of the cost has to be attributed down to the players. And, you know, we're gonna put something, always looking to put on the best football games we can for the players. So that is in effect, and we're working on it, and hopefully we'll be able to announce something here in the next couple of weeks that'll sound good for everybody involved and make it happen.
Damon Ware, ADFL Commissioner, joining us here on the Coaches Corner Podcast. Damon, before I let you go, is there anything you want to point out or let the players, owners, or coaches know around the league?
You know, again, always just you know, it's tremendous to make this happen year after year. There's a lot that goes into it, scheduling games, stadiums, and officials and everything. And I just want to, you know, take this time to thank each and every person that participates in the ADFL, whether that's coaching, owning, playing, the trainers, officials, people that come to the games, people that work the chains and the ball boys. You know, this takes a tremendous amount of effort from a lot of people. So, again, you know, I don't want to forget anybody, but everybody that has something to do with making the ADFL special, I want to send a special thanks to. Also, just going in the future, we'll be announcing some things here the next couple of weeks, building a bigger and better league again for next year, getting, you know, more talented and bigger and better events for next year, getting more involved with the communities and things like that. So just want everybody to stay tuned and, you know, be ready to look at some shifting of what's going to happen here with football here in Colorado, and just look forward to continuing to work with plenty of people that deserve a shot to get to the next level, and continue to just work with guys that love being a part of these leagues. And so just want to say thank you to everybody and wish everybody the best, and let's crown another great champion again this year.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Damon, for joining me here today. We'll be sure to have you back here in the near future.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Damon Ware, for joining us here on the Coaches Corner Podcast. Very excited to see what the ADFL has in store as the league almost finishes it up, getting ready to head into the postseason with the number 1 seed Grand Junction Gladiators, a team I coach for, looking to make some noise in the playoffs on their revenge tour, trying to get back to the championship for the 5th year in a row, trying to bring back and win ring number 4. That's the goal. So, stay tuned. We're going to cover the UFC, the results of UFC 200 next week, the latest news around the NFL, and much, much more in the following weeks. And we will see you next week here on the Coaches Corner Podcast on CodyRourke18.com and iHeartRadio. The following episode is available for download right now on CodyRourke18.com. In the right-hand corner of the Coaches Corner Podcast section, click on the link and it'll take you to past and present episodes of the Coaches Corner Podcast. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at CodyRourke18 and at Coaches Co Podcast. Tweet us, send us anything you want,